Welcome everyone to the brand new Sim1 Podcast. This is where we talk all things F1 sim racing and top flight league racing. My name is, of course, George Morgan, commentator for the F1 Sim Racing World Championship as well as PSGL PCF1. I'm proud to say that, of course, I'm not alone. We'll be dishing you out all the action, talking about every single talking point, well, most of them anyway. I have got Ryan Jacobs along with me as well, former F1 Challengers driver. Ryan, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, George.
Good to see you. Also, a blast from the past. It's the one, the only. Former Williams F1 Sim Racing World Championship driver, Tino Naukkarinen. Tino, how you doing, mate?
Doing fantastic. Just got to work, so...
Yeah, you jetted home. You literally jetted home, mate. Great to have you here, of course. Not so sure about the shirt you're wearing, but we'll go ahead anyway.
Yeah, it's a controversial take, but yeah, we keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I don't need to tell you. I mean, obviously you're aware of this as much as I am. But we're obviously kicking start this brand new podcast, Sim1 Podcast. An exciting time, and it's an exciting time for sim racing as a whole because, of course, the F1 Sim Racing World Championship is back. It kick-started back at DreamHack, and Ryan, you were there. What was your feeling? Obviously, getting into the room. Obviously, you were at a very unique. I don't want to say necessarily unique because it shouldn't be, but of course, it's the one time in the calendar where we're going to have a live audience, and you were part of that audience. I'm just keen to get your perspective.
Yeah, I think it was a really, really good event. Really well managed. The stage was awesome. I think they smashed it out of the park with that, especially with the custom liveries on every single on all the rigs. I think the production-wise is really good. I think the first day obviously was a little bit quieter in terms of the crowd, but as the days progressed, the crowds got bigger, more energetic. You know, it was a really good day, really good weekend, and I hope in the future though that they could just do more of that because it was such a great thing to experience in person for somebody that's watched esports for so long. It was good to actually just be there in person and just see the raw emotion of everybody, and you know, when you've competed against some of them as well, it's good to speak to them after, hearing their thoughts and opinions as well, which you might not get to hear when you're watching it at home. So it was really good just to see that part. And there's some things obviously that you couldn't see on camera, but if you're live there in the audience, you got to see some things which are really cool, and you just saw the real passion and the care behind, you know, each team and driver really. So yeah, it was a really good event, and I don't think it could have really gone any better.
No, I think, you know, I mean, obviously I'd be biased because obviously I was part of the team putting it on, but no, it was fabulous, honestly, from my perspective. I mean, Tino, going back to you're one of the OGs, really, going back to when it first came about, 2017, of course, the first year F1 sim racing got underway. What do you make of the evolution from when you were racing in it years and years ago to where it's got to now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally the OG. Like, I was not in there.
You're a close OG. You're our closest OG.
2017 Abu Dhabi, I was not there with
No.
and Johnny. But yeah, one thing for sure what happened is the competition has got extremely close. Insanely. Like, I think back in my time, we were like maybe half a second inside the whole grid. Now it's like more like a tenth or something like
wild,
that.
Isn't it? You look at the qualifying numbers, you're talking hundreds or even less than that, thousands.
Like that's crazy. But then also of course the production value has gone up, and I think the equipment. But I guess those things are natural when you keep, or like when it happens for many years. So it will only get better from there.
Of course, well, I think it comes with experience, does it not? I mean, let's for the viewing public, obviously for those listening in and for those watching as well, I think it's important, and we mentioned this, we need to shoot the breeze as to what F1 sim racing is all about, really, I think, for the new audience. But basically, this is Formula One's official Sim Racing World Championship. This is what it's all about. The Formula One Sim Racing World Championship has every single real F1 team getting involved. Obviously, this year is a little bit different because Sauber have since departed. Audi stepped in. They've been focusing on their real life product, I think, at the moment. Same for Cadillac. So sim racing has taken a back seat for those two teams, hence why we have 9. But we'll get onto that later on. But these teams all field a sim racing roster to basically take part in the championship. Of course, this runs on F125. That's the Codemasters/EA Sports release. And of course, qualifying full system Q1, Q2 and Q3 with a 50% race distance with a mandatory pit stop in between as well. Compound change, real strategies are taking place, and obviously that adds to the pressure of the event. $750,000 is the prize pool across 12 rounds in itself across 4 events. Obviously, a serious amount of money that the drivers are fighting for. And obviously, 2026 kicking start at DreamHack in Birmingham in the NEC, which is a very grandiose arena. Definitely the grandest event we have had, I think, in the history of F1 sim racing, and the most crowd we have seen as well. Tickets, I think, amassed 50,000 plus sold across the weekend, which is absolutely massive. So, I mean, it speaks volumes as to the growth. I appreciate there was Call of Duty there as well and other things going on, but there were plenty of people, Ryan, getting involved in the sim racing aspect too.
Yeah, there's so many little pop-ups around. Red Bull had their own one, and Alpine also, they really did come out to show off. Did Alpine? They brought a whole Formula One car with their personalized like logos and stuff on the car. It was unbelievable to see, like the effort that Alpine really put into it. And you'd think, you know, other teams in the future potentially will be looking at that and going, we'll want a piece of that. And I think the sim rigs as well, which were there on display, gave people who maybe had never even thought about doing sim racing a chance just to experience going on a wheel, going on the pedals and just experiencing a hot lap around Silverstone. I think it was Alpine that did that one. And then Fanatec and Red Bull, they were partnered together at their own stand, and they were doing Austria. So that was a really fun experience. I had to go on there. It's good to test myself out on those equipments. And yeah, I think it gave a really good platform for sim racing, not just Formula One, but sim racing as a whole, just to give people that experience. And it really gave an eye-opener for a lot of people there, because a lot of people just walking around the venue and they would stay, watch qualifying, have a look, and, you know, they wouldn't leave their seat. So I think, you know, it's a really important thing for F1 just to continue and build on this momentum, which they've had such a successful event at DreamHack.
Yeah, and obviously just touching on the competition itself, 13 roster changes, actually the least amount we have seen. I think it's actually the minimum I think we've witnessed in terms, not a very busy driver market is what I'm basically saying, but 3 rookies stepping up as well to the championship. Obviously a triple champion by the name of Jarno Opmeer. I mean, Tino, you know Jarno, I think from years gone by. You've raced against him in the past. I mean, what is he like from your experiences racing against him? I mean, we're talking about the time period where he was just in the process of rising into the sport, really. I mean, you probably would have known him back when he was racing for Renault.
Yeah, like, what can I say about Jarno? Like, insane talent, as we obviously know from his real life past. And back in the days, what can I say? I mean, maybe, I guess when the quality was a little bit lower in the grid, he always started quite high in the qualifying. But now when the level is a bit like insane, like I said before, that maybe he's starting a bit too behind in the qualifying as he would like. Maybe that's showing a bit. His qualifying's
always been a bit off, isn't it, as of late? Yeah, I've got that vibe.
But what can I say? Like, this guy is probably for sure the smartest guy in the racing, when we go in the race situations, and just his racecraft, like. Mm. As we probably gonna speak about the moving last race of the event one, that just shows.
Hey, we save that for the end, Tino. We save that for the end.
But like just thinking, he's just always thinking like 2 steps ahead every situation. So that's probably the key thing, and always thinking the championship. That's probably the main. Well, that's always shows that he's a 3-time champ. So
yeah,
that's a
record holder.
Maybe sometimes that as well. But maybe sometimes you don't want to risk it for the race win and get the second place for the championship. And yeah, that's probably what he's.
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on as well. Obviously, we'll get on to Jarno later on, because obviously he, with the whole Bahrain race, that was the last one of the DreamHack weekend. I want to touch on Alvaro Carreton with you, Tino, because obviously you two were teammates years ago, and he's now celebrating his 8th season with Williams.
It's crazy. It's
I
crazy.
mean, he's the only driver to actually remain with one team throughout his entire history of competing. And I'm talking since teams came in 2018, because that was the first year, wasn't it? So his 8th season with Williams, this campaign. I mean, just talk us through that. Your experiences with Alvaro.
I mean, he's seen it all now with William, basically. But yeah, what can I say? Alvaro. I mean, when he was my teammate, he obviously his English wasn't the greatest. Obviously,
it's improved now.
Young. He was what, 17,
Yeah.
17 or 18, something like that, or 18 in second year. But well, nice guy, very fast, and it's just crazy to me to think that he's still there. And I beat him in the 2019 head-to-head. So
let's not let him forget that.
Had to get that in there, Tino. Had to get that in.
Alvaro, if you're listening, shots fired from Tino Naukkarinen. No, incredible feat. I mean, Ryan, what do you make of it? I mean, Alvaro, twice a pole sitter, I believe, I think in the past. I think at the very least, I remember 2020 him putting it on pole in Austria. A really fast driver who largely has gone under the radar in recent years, but we can't forget the performances that he has managed to dig out in the past, and also in league racing.
Yeah, it's just credit to his longevity to be able to keep improving and adapting, and keeping up with these newcomers which keep coming around. I think it's ridiculous. To be able to still be on the grid after 8 seasons, I think is a remarkable achievement, because it's a young man's game, as they say nowadays. You know, everybody on the grid's just getting younger, and there's very, very few drivers from the original series. I think it may be Freddie, Alvaro, and maybe Danny. I think that would be it, who are still left from that original core. So and Johnny, yes. And it's just mental to think that those guys are being able to just keep up to the level and improving their level at the same time as well. So it just shows you the work ethic that they have can't go unnoticed, because they've got to probably maybe work 2 times harder or 10 times harder than these younger guys who can just come on, set a fastest lap, new PV, just like that. So yeah, I find it really remarkable what Alvaro's managed to do. And again, you see the team changes in between, which drivers do. I find it's amazing how he's just managed to stay with Williams, but that's just his home, evidently, and I don't think he'll ever leave. I think the only time we'll see him go is when he maybe decides F1 sim racing isn't for him anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even Williams came out speaking to their team. They basically said he's part of the furniture, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Right, let's talk about some of the other drivers on the grid. Obviously, we touched on Jarno Opmeer, now record-breaking 3-time world champion, beating Brendan Lee's record of 2 originally. He did level it up a few seasons ago now, obviously going back to his time at Mercedes, and of course now winning it with Red Bull. As of last season, he is the reigning champion. We've got another budding young champion potentially on the horizon, Alpine's very own Welshman, Otis Lawrence, who caused a bit of a stir, becoming the youngest race winner in F1 sim racing history at Jeddah last season. Ryan, what do you make of him?
Yeah, I've known Otis for years, racing him back on Xbox days. He was under the name of FRA Elite. And maybe that name was forecasting what he'd go on to become, a really elite level driver on this game, because he is phenomenal. Like, I think we saw at the start of this game in PSGL, he was setting some ridiculous lap times. I remember Brazil, he got into, I think, the 105.9. It was an absolutely unbelievable lap, and you're just like, wow, he could really maybe be challenging for the title this season. And you know, I think he's got that capability, definitely. One thing I think he knows that he'll have to do is keep a level head, and I think that's always the challenge for these young drivers when they come onto the grid. It's being able to stay calm, stay relaxed, handle the nerves and handle the occasion, because a moment of contact, a moment of anything, and you know, you're not at home anymore. You've got a camera on you, you've got, you know, production hearing you, they see everything that you do, and any mistake gets punished. So Otis is coming into his 2nd season, like you mentioned, and I think with the team he's got around him in that Alpine team, I think he's got all the confidence in the world to go on and push for the title this season.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a contender. Another contender as well, Tino, I want to touch on Thomas Ronhaar as well, who actually came in just after, actually, I think you departed from the sport. I think that was kind of the crossover, if I'm not mistaken. I think when did you depart? About 2020, am I right?
Yeah, around 2020, but I was still hanging in the scene for 2021. So
Yeah, just about as he
yeah,
came in. He was joining Haas,
yes,
wasn't he, for 2022?
yes, yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, obviously, the drivers move about all over the place, but I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, he's moved now a couple of times. He's gone from Sauber. Of course, Ron Haar's been fighting for the championship ever since he sprung up in F1 sim racing, had an incredible debut season. I think everyone expected it anyway, based on what we saw in league racing. But I think the big headline was his move to Mercedes. And obviously, this is off the back of Sauber not competing this season because, A, they've turned into Audi, and Audi obviously have been focusing on their real-life F1 project. They can't really do anything on the sim racing side yet, but have committed, we believe, to 2027 next year. So what do you make of Ron Haar now in a Mercedes?
That's a big move, like when I think about this now, that Mercedes is actually kind of iconic in the F1 eSport, F1 sim racing now. When you think about it, like two
different champions, right? Two different champions.
Yes, yeah. And it's quite an iconic team now. When you had Jarno, you had Brendan at first, and winning championship there. Then you had Jarno there, and yeah, maybe Ron Haar is the third in the making. You never know, but maybe it gives more pressure the team. I don't think the drivers don't really care what cars they drive, but maybe there is something added on, as we saw in results in Event 1. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has
the pace.
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, you don't lose the pace, do you? I mean, obviously, team to team is one thing. I mean, you got to think he's basically following the Jarno Opmeer formula, because Jarno won the title with Sauber, Alfa Romeo, basically, and then jumped ship to Mercedes and then won his second title. So Ron Haar kind of taken the same route, obviously Sauber to Mercedes. The only thing is he didn't win a title with Sauber.
Yeah, and he missed Renault at first.
Yeah, he did miss Renault. That is very true. But Renault weren't there either.
yeah, just to get the stats right. But yeah.
Yeah, very similar. Right, touching on another driver that's moved lately, Ryan, Ismail Fassi, runner-up last season to Opmeer, in what was truly one of the most bewildering performances I think we have seen from a budding starlet coming into the scene who hasn't really necessarily lit up league racing, not really until I would argue 2023 when he came in. Obviously, we've seen him on the precipice of breaking through, but signing with Williams, obviously originally, runner-up last season, obviously no stranger to winning races, and now he's moved to Scuderia Ferrari, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a big jump from Williams to Ferrari, just because Ferrari demands so much from you. And I think if anybody on the grid who could handle it, it's probably Ismail. Simply because watching him, he can go for that brave move, go for that gap. Maybe sometimes it doesn't pay off for him, but he's not afraid to do it. And I think that's what it probably takes to drive for Ferrari, because it's such a demanding team. They expect to win every single season, and anything less, you're gone. It's that kind of level at Ferrari, and Ismail in that first season he did, or with Williams, was just ridiculously impressive, because to handle that pressure, the environment, and deliver the performances that he did, it was a no-brainer, I think, for Ferrari to come in and go, we've got to get you, and they did. So again, I think there's a lot of eyes on him this season. I think there's a lot of pressure on him, because again, I think sadly, if you don't deliver for Ferrari, you probably do get moved on, because it's a brutal business.
It's interesting you say that, because I was about to touch on the next driver, the man he would replace, Nicolas Longuet, who instead went the other way, Tino. Now, you know Nico. Obviously, you two have crossed paths in the past on track, no doubt. Obviously, Nico jumping into the sport as the teams sort of got involved in F1 sim racing, obviously came through and ended up signing with Red Bull originally. Obviously now, since then, he has moved a few places. He was a Renault driver as well, but eventually now finds himself at Williams. Now, there was a few moments at Ferrari that didn't go his way. We look back at the issue at Zandvoort with the pit stop, where he was put on the wrong tyres. Little instances like this. Coming to Williams, do you think he will flourish there? Do you think under a different banner, a different team, do you think Williams give him that renewed confidence that Ferrari simply couldn't?
I feel like now the team is basically built around him. Like, I think he has more to say there, so probably helps. And of course, not driving for Ferrari helps pressure-wise. But
Yeah.
of course, every driver has pressure. But
Big team
Nico
though, aren't they? Big team.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I think Nico is now experienced enough that he can be a actual like title contender. Or, like he always is. Like he's so consistent. Like he's always there in Q3 and getting top sixes. And yeah, I think probably and he has good teammates. Istvan also coming with him in actually no, he was in Ferrari like a few years ago, I think. I can't remember these things, but I know he's a good friend of Istvan, so that there is that connection as well. And then you have, of course, my old teammate Alvaro there. So I think the environment is good for him to release there. And yeah, what can I say more?
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. This is actually one of the talking points I actually had during the show. I mean, we were looking at Longe, and this could potentially be a rebirth. And I must say, looking at his qualifying performances, there definitely looked like there was some renewed vigor, some renewed confidence, certainly in Q1 and Q2, especially at China. I kind of made him favourite to go fastest in Q3 as well for that. Unfortunately, I was wrong. That ended up going to Freddie Rasmussen. But still, quite interesting. I want to touch on the new rookies as well before we jump into China, Ryan. Obviously, we've got Jan Halliday, Tycho Hardy, Gabor Zontos. Technically, though, Tycho Hardy isn't really a rookie, I would suggest, because, of course, he did feature last year. Jan Halliday, proper rookie. Gabor Zontos, of course, we didn't even see him at all during the first event, understandably, because they've got Joris Krozen and Tamas Gal at Haas at the moment. But for Jan Halliday, a move long in the making, I think, for him, to suddenly jump in at Aston Martin. Do you think it's about time?
Yeah, I think Jan's a really, really talented driver, and I think he's shown that for many years now. It's just come together at a perfect time, and under the Aston Martin banner, I think it's a perfect opportunity for him. I was speaking to Duncan at the event, and he was doing Japan, which we'll obviously touch on, and he's got the pace, and it's about just delivering it on that stage, and can he handle it? Is going to be the big thing, because it's all good being able to do it at home, where you can practice hours on end. And yeah, I think Jan can deliver that. As for Gabor, I think he's probably one that we'll probably very rarely see, if anything, judging by how late the announcement was for Haas in particular, and the way he was still driving in PSGL in F2 before the event happened. I think it was a couple of days before. So I'd be very surprised if we see Gabor racing this season, but never say never. We could see an illness and Gabor could be chucked in the deep end, and it'll be really interesting to see if he'd be able to deliver on the stage.
Yeah, I think it's going to be compelling to see how the new rookies flourish. I mean, from your point of view, Tino, being a driver that steps up for the first time, can you look back to your experience first stepping into the rig, into the arena in an F1 Sim Racing World Championship race? I mean, what were your nerves like? Can you remember that feeling?
I can, yes. It was obviously all these drivers have been driving this game in home and everything, but then when you're there in the arena and the actual race starts, it's totally new feeling. Like I don't think you can experience that at all anywhere else. So it's just the pressure, and for me, the actually helped me in a way to actually concentrate more. So there is hindsight of it, but it's, I don't know, it's obviously the big lights and like the cameras watching you 24/7 there during the race. It's definitely something you can't also practice for or prepare. So it's interesting how the rookies can handle it, but you have to if you wanna stay there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you have to adapt, don't you? Very, very quickly.
Yes.
I mean, that is the truth of the matter. Right. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the prelim, a lot about the drivers that are going to be coming in to the series ahead of the season. Obviously, now we need to get into the action. So let's kick things off with round one at China. China round 1, everybody. Right, so basically we kick things off at the Shanghai International Circuit. Lots of excitement. Obviously, we'll kick things off with quali. Ulas Yildirim, very, very quick, I think, in quali afterwards, Ryan. Brilliant stuff. Obviously, it seems that Freddie Rasmussen is back after arguably his worst season last year.
Yeah, Freddie and Ulas were unbelievable at the front. It was a really impressive times from the pair of them. What was really interesting was obviously the wheel situation that they did on the outlap, which later did get banned. But it gave them their advantage. The reason behind they were doing it was to get tyre temps into the fronts because it's so much harder than the rears, obviously. So they were doing it to quickly get temps in so that they could be more aggressive into turn 1 and turn 2, and carry that extra speed through the corner. And it paid dividends because there was a 1-2 for the pair of them. Obviously not part of the same team, but same family, shall we call it, under the same team in a sense. But yeah, Freddie looked laser focused and he didn't give anything away. He gave his interview after the qualifying performance and he was like, nothing to worry about, I haven't scored any points yet. He kept it like cool, calm and collected, didn't give anything away. But I think another big talking point, apart from the big wheel thing that they're doing, was how tight they got to the edge of the track before the hairpin. It was a speed boost thing, apparently, which teams had discovered, and it gained you a marginal time. But in esports, that's massive. But yeah, it was so fascinating to see everybody deploying that.
Yeah, I mean, Tino, what was your take on that? The drivers moving over to the far inside, really, of on the long straight leading down towards the hairpin at the end of that straight. They would then switch back across to put themselves in position to take the apex. These are the little intricacies you have to be aware of, isn't it? I suppose when you're in the series, but how much of a benefit does that give you?
Gives you tenths, I think. Like if you drive technically the left lane, like the fastest lane, I think it slows you down. Your car keeps bottoming out. So that was the whole idea of going to the right side of the track, so over the wide line. I think that was more flat there. So yeah, that was at least what I noticed that, and they did it in Bahrain as well. So there's something having the like flatter track there or something.
Yeah, and it was a big pole position as well for Freddie, wasn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, it really was, and he just smashed out the park, I think is the best way to say it. Only just beat US in the end. But when you get to that penultimate and last corner in particular, especially the hairpin, you have to drift it, was what the drivers were telling me when I was there. It's like you really got to chuck the car in and get the balance right. I think a few drivers, I think John was one of them, who just got it slightly wrong, and you're out of qualifying then. It was that kind of margin where you can just gain so much time or lose it. And that was the difference. And you could just tell when you just see the cars, the cars and the drivers flicking their wheels so aggressively. And a lot of people don't like that about the F1 game, but these drivers know all the metas and how to go around the circuit as quick as they can. And Freddie was able to deliver that lap. And Ulas, I think, was a bit gutted about it because he had pole there last year. So I think he was trying to make it back to back, but Freddie, again, just stepped up, delivered as he always seems to do, and he put himself in a really good position for the race.
Yeah, he certainly did. He did a great job. Another driver that's obviously performed well, Tino, was Ulas Yildirim. Of course, we mentioned briefly about his qualifying lap. What did you make of his performance at China?
I think that is one of his favorite tracks.
Well, he won it in PSGL, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Look in the results. Like
and pole last year. Yeah.
Yes. Has to be something with his favorite track there.
Yeah.
And obviously China, very hard to overtake. So that's probably one of the good tracks to have or be a favorite track.
Yeah. So you need to be a good qualifier basically to take on China, especially in your view.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. Otis Lawrence, Ryan, there was some shenanigans, wasn't there, towards the end of the race as he was looking to quicken up towards the end. A little bit of contact coming through the corner before that long straight as well. Things got a little bit tight. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think Otis was doing what he had to do. He had to be aggressive on that ultimate strategy, using the best position off that hard medium runners. Nicholas Longe got a bit unlucky with that strategy, obviously off the start. He just fell down the order because everybody around him was on mediums, and I think Williams probably learned that lesson after that. But Otis in particular was just being aggressive on that second stint, and he got close to Otmir into that long corner, and you just thought, oh, was he going to go down the inside here? He had the grip, but it was just pure lag. Otis was fine where he was, but on his screen, Jarno just twitched a little bit, and it was nothing to do with Otmir losing the car or anything like that.
Well, there was no damage as far as we could see, was there?
Exactly, yeah, that was it as well. So it was just unfortunate, you know. It was neither driver's fault, the contact, and then unfortunately due to that, Otis lost momentum. And when he lost the momentum down that straight, he was really a sitting duck. I think he lost 2 places into that corner, following up on that, and it was just unfortunate for Otis. But I think he learned his lesson from that. Sometimes you just got to be a bit more cautious, and I think the move would have been on if it wasn't for that slight desync. Again, these things happen in a land environment, and it's unpredictable sometimes, and it's unfortunate in that regard. But Otis, I think, learned from that mistake, although and he just pushed on. And I think as well, it probably showed how difficult of a track, like Tino mentioned, to overtake at, because drivers were going for moves in dangerous positions in some regards, and you would think, oh, go on the back straight, but it just wasn't possible because of the grip of the hard tyres.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. Also, it kind of detracted Jarno's attempts, I think, to take on Alfie Butcher, I think, over that podium place as well. Credit to Alfie. Tino, were you impressed, obviously, making that strategy call and obviously taking the tyres all the way? He did jump 3 laps earlier into the box than most out there.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard, or like I just asked my sources, that they actually expected...
My sources, love that.
they actually expected more people to pit that early.
Yeah.
But then they didn't. They just wanted to overcut, because like I think they took a risk, like, or like not a risk, but like if there was if like people like from P6 to 7 or like 8 pitted with Alfie, they would have made more. Obviously, they would have undercutted Freddie and Ulas then, and because Freddie and Ulas did overcut and no one else went with Alfie, they could easily just overtake Alfie, and he was just sitting duck there. And yeah, but strategy-wise, I thought he will drop down, but he managed to keep P3 somehow. So fair enough to him. But I don't think it was any, like what I heard. Like I said, it wasn't a risk. It was just. But then no one else has pitted with him, so that happens sometimes.
Yeah, bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Obviously, some drivers could have probably benefited off the back of an early pit stop. Obviously, Alfie, the only one to really make that move, and ultimately profiteering off the back of it. First podium of the season with McLaren as well for this campaign. So a good start for the Papaya team. This leads us now beautifully through to the stewards' investigations. I believe there was only one in total, Ryan. I think it was Tom Manley, receiving that only one. Obviously, with a little bit of a slip, just getting a touch aggressive. Altogether, though, a clean race.
Yeah, it was on Julian Klaffenbach, if I remember correctly. I think he showed me it the very next day. You just see Tom diving down the inside. You're like, oh no, and he got a penalty, which was rightfully so. I think Tom would have held his hands up and said, yeah, I got it. I was a little bit late on the brakes, and Tom's a clean driver anyway. He wouldn't usually do something like that. But yeah, I think for first round, incident free, it was, apart from that, it was quite clean. So it was something for fans to, be a bit happy about. You usually see a bit more chaos in league racing and esports, but for an opening round, I think you saw good racing, bold strategy from Alfie, like we just briefly discussed. And I think, like you say as well, if Alfie had somebody working with him, we could have had a different race winner. Because if he just had that protection, I think he would have been able to keep Freddie and Ulas behind potentially. But yeah, it's all if buts and maybes. But overall, I think it was a good Chinese Grand Prix.
Yeah, certainly was. So that pretty much closes the lid. Obviously, the final result, the top three, I should say, was Freddie Rasmussen, Ulash Ozilderim, and Alfie Butcher. That was your podium at the end of China. We'll now move through to Suzuka, Japan. So, round two, Suzuka, Japan. One of my personal favourites. Tino, give us your take on Suzuka. Obviously, that first sector, you've got the winding snake section that takes you up the hill through Dunlop, the two fast Degner corners as well, and then you make your move up through towards the hairpin at turn 11, 200R, Spoon, 130R, Casio Triangle, last corner. It's altogether a mishmash of a circuit, but wonderful to drive.
What a beautiful track. That's what every racetrack should be like.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean,
it has everything you need.
Absolutely. I mean, what have your experiences been? Can you highlight some experiences yourself that you've had at Suzuka, obviously in F1 sim racing in the past?
I think I've raced there only once, but I gave Alvaro his first pole position there with a good slipstream in the back straight. So that's what.
And you're not allowed that anymore. You're not allowed slipstream anymore.
That stands out. From
That's probably why.
But then also, I think in also same year, I think I had a good race from like P14. I got up to P8, and then I had a side-by-side moment with Beresnay probably in the first Degner, and I went crash, so I didn't get any points.
Oh,
but that just shows how the difficult the track.
Beautiful track though, beautiful.
Yes, it is. Yeah, nothing to take away from the track, but hard to battle.
Surprised you don't have an agenda off the track after that.
Goodness me. Well, let's just get down to this. Obviously, the weather was paramount, wasn't it, at the Suzuka circuit, Ryan? Lots of drivers mystified, really, as to the direction of the rain. It did improve as we made our way through the qualifying sessions, but obviously, it's another ball for the drivers and the teams to juggle.
Yeah, because when it's changing conditions, it's an absolute nightmare. And it always starts off quite heavy rain on this game. And then it's basically intermediates almost instantly after a few minutes. Like, it doesn't matter. It could be bloody thunderstorms. I think inters would still be the optimal tire to go on. It's a bit similar to real life F1 in that regard. If you can cast your mind back to last season, it was the teams never really wanted to use the full wet tires. And it's the same in the game. And everybody tried to manage it, try and get on the inters at the right time. You always wanted to be the last one across the line. And I think we saw that very, very dramatically. Thank God for the drivers. Ghosting was on. Because, and it was like they were all just ghosting through one another. And you saw the real dramas of it towards the end because they wanted to have the optimal.
It was a car park, wasn't there, at the Casio Triangle chicane?
Yeah, it was crazy, and then you just see them all glitching through one another, and you're like, oh my God! And then I'm like, how can you concentrate when you've got a driver going in and out of you like crazy? And like, I find that is a real skill in itself to be able to deal with it and hit the apexes and carry the speed through the corners when there's somebody just ghosting through you, through some corners.
Yeah, madness. And obviously the big shocking news, Tino, was the Jarno Watmere elimination and the actual apparent situation as to what occurred. We checked the telemetry at the end of the session, both myself and Kai, and we spotted soft tyres were put onto the car, and he was the only driver to do that.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of it? I mean, from that perspective, I mean, even with the rain, still a damp circuit, everyone else was on inters. He went for the choice on the soft. Speaking to him afterwards, he felt that it was the wrong choice anyway, that he wouldn't have gone on the softs had he had it his way. We kind of got vibes that perhaps there might have been some instructions fed to him that perhaps he didn't agree with.
Yeah, it was odd choice to be he was only one with the softs, so like no one else took that risk. But maybe he felt like I don't think Jarno felt like having not enough pace to be in Q3 in rain because
not part of the plan, is it? Not part of the plan.
He's very good in rain, but so I don't think it was totally his decision, but we're only guessing here. But what can I say? Like also in Q1 for me it was a very sad moment when we saw my fellow Finn Joni getting cutting the track in the last chicane, not going through. Sure. Like it was straight in the broadcast as well. So.
I know.
Yes.
I know. It was tough for Yanni, especially on his return to Racing Bulls as well. Not the best way really to go through it. Obviously, though, as we go into the eventual nitty gritty of Q3, it was a fierce contest again, wasn't it, Ryan? But back-to-back poles for Freddie.
Yeah, and you just thought this is going to be a long season for the rest of the grid. When you're seeing a driver do back-to-back, you're like, oh no, our fans going to be bored.
Especially when it's Freddie Rasmussen. Especially when it's
exactly.
him, right?
and he's just chill about it. He's like, yeah, pole, job done. Now I need to deliver in the race, and that's it. And you just think Freddie's probably going to do that, and it's just mega. He's able to deliver lap after lap in qualifying, and it just shows you how much effort and time you must put in to be able to get the lap together every single time. Because he said quite interestingly in the interview about his hands. If his hands get cold, he gets nervous. Whereas I think the opposite for everybody else is the hands get more sweaty. When they're getting nervous. And
well, that's why you
like
sweat.
Like,
that's why you sweat. You get nervous.
Yeah, exactly. And he does the opposite. And you're like, oh, right.
He gets cold.
Because of his, he's like because of his CS:GO. Because he's a massive CS:GO fan and plays that. And it's like that must help in some way. But
maybe.
Yeah, I find it remarkable. That he's able to deliver lap and. The race, well, that's another story.
Yeah, let's get into that. Tino, jump starts for 3 drivers, Freddie being one of them, Nicholas Longe being the other, and Alvaro Caraton, your old buddy, also receiving one as well. But I think for the purposes of this race, I think we should focus on the front two, because Rasmussen and Longe, as a result of that 10-second time penalty they received off the back of the jump start, they tried to break it, didn't they?
Yes, and I thought it's race over. It felt very weird in the watching the race live. I was like, is there going to be a restart? This feels weird, but yeah.
Never seen before. Never seen before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually means in this series means race over basically. But I think you got the right 2 people to get in the jump start to actually manage to get something away with it. So
I mean, 8 seconds. I mean, that was impressive, right?
Yes, very impressive. But then you again think which 2 were in front? Nicholas Longe and Fredrik Rasmussen.
Yeah. 2 of the best.
One of the fastest drivers in the grid. So, no, but I think that actually why the gap was so big was because I heard, I saw from X afterwards that Ismail he underfueled his car.
He did. Correct.
That's why he was slow.
Well,
and Otis didn't overtake him for some reason. So
absolutely. Well, they were trying to encourage Otis to overtake because they wanted the DRS off the back of his Alpine to allow him to fuel save
a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I think without that Ismail thing, the gap will not been 8 seconds, but could have been still 3, 4, 5, something around that. But because Freddie and Nico was working together with each other pretty well, so
yeah,
they understood the situation and tried to limit the damage. What is the word?
Damage limitation.
Damage limitation.
Yes.
You got it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately though, Ryan, it ended in disaster for Freddie. Obviously, he was working away. They used and abused the tyres as they made their way through the race, obviously just trying to apply delta on everybody else. It worked in the initial, but of course that tread was always going to fall off. But in actual fact, it was a mistake at the Degners that saw him get onto the curb, essentially bottom out because the floor was basically over the top of the curb and just carried the car straight into the barrier.
Yeah, it was mental to see in person because on the broadcast, you just see Nicholas come through the corner. You're like, where's Freddie?
Where's he gone? Where's he gone?
Disappeared. He's gone. You're like looking for him, and then you just see him slowly creep out behind him. You're like, oh no.
Well, you can imagine what it was like for me in the commentary box because I was looking in the background and I just saw him poke his nose out in front, and I was like, hang on, what's Freddie doing there? I was literally thinking.
It's just mental because you just see Freddie, and you were just talking about how good he is in qualifying and the race when he's in that zone, and it's just an uncharacteristic mistake, I would say.
I agree.
You just got on that curb, and basically you're like a skateboard on a pole in a way because you're just sliding across. You got no control, and you're just a sitting duck. And with the speed he carried through it with the tires as well, I think that was another thing. He just didn't have the same grip through the corner, so he just overshot it ever so slightly, and then he was just a passenger on that curb, and it was race over for him there. And I thought he was going to maybe help out Nico and maybe hold up Otis and Ismail, but he just held up Ismail in the end, and Otis managed to pull away and get a gap on Ismail, who again was just like, I need to save fuel again still. So he was in such a tricky position, but I felt so bad for Freddie because I think him and Nico did a brilliant job. And yes, they were a bit fortunate that Ismail underfueled the car so heavily, but I think it's a mistake on Ferrari's end, and they'll definitely learn from that experience not to do it just in case of a scenario which is incredibly rare happens again.
Out of their control, obviously.
Yeah.
And obviously they try to help Ishmael by, using John Evans before his pit stop to try and slow them up a little bit. But it didn't necessarily work out the way they envisaged. Obviously, John unable to keep them back that much longer on his aged tyres. But obviously, for Nicholas Longuet, wasn't quite the podium. Only a small gap, very nearly got himself a P3, but a P4 obviously on the table. But a massive moment for Otis, Tino. His first win of the season, his first win for Alpine.
Yeah, like it was actually kind of after we crossed the finish line, like there was like whole team coming up to the celebration.
Yeah. They're one of the wildest celebrations I think we've seen, apart from his first win at Jeddah last year.
Yes, but what can I say? Like he managed that race. He knew about the pens with the front two there, and once he got rid of Ismail behind him, he had the pace to keep up. Like I think he didn't lose that much time compared to Ismail when he was like leading car in the train. So he just did what he had to do, just keeping the gap under 10 seconds and just win the race easy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you got to talk about the pressure though of that as well, because when it's like 10 seconds and like you see those guys just pulled away from everybody, and Otis just was able to keep his nerves under check, and it was a great. I think it was a great performance from him. Obviously, he had a bit of a tire advantage towards the end. Wasn't massive, but still, just to be able to just keep his nerves, not get any penalties, crucially, and just pull over and just do it. It was just the important thing for him, and it got them big points in there. Like you mentioned, Tino, the celebrations were absolutely crazy. I've never seen anything like it in F1 esports.
It was quite something. I mean, the roof was lifted off by Alpine as a whole. Obviously, back-to-back podiums for McLaren as well, Ryan. Jake Benham obviously creeping in as well. Incidentally, that being his, I believe, third podium, of his career, his first with McLaren.
Yeah, it was a really good drive from Jake, and we're talking about Otis being really clinical with it, and Jake was just as clinical because the gap was, I believe, literally maybe less than a tenth.
Yeah, thousands, hundreds.
Yeah, just to secure that podium. Like if he got that final chicane wrong, he lost that podium. That was the difference. Yeah, and that's just credit to Jake because he was definitely disappointed after the first round at China, because I think he knows he could have done way better than that, and we know what Jake can do. He's an incredibly talented driver on his day, and I think he said something about his preparation in the build-up wasn't as optimal as I think he could have been. So I think he must have been over the moon just to get a podium, and especially in his new team in McLaren. I think that's a great way to kick it off, and it got them big points for the constructors.
Yeah, obviously big points for Fassi and Ferrari as well by that same token, though it could have been more had they planned the race effectively. I think, though, I was more impressed with Aston Martin. I think in the end with the combination of Ruben Pedreño, Jan Halliday, and it was Halliday's first race, quintessentially, of the season and indeed of his career in F1 sim racing. And it was a fantastic effort to get his first points, and Pedreño also in the points as well.
Yeah, it's just really impressive from Aston Martin just to be able to get a double points. I think a lot of them, that is one of their teams, I think, that maybe went under the radar a little bit. And I think in that regard, it's kind of a good thing that you go under the radar, because then there's less expectations for the drivers. And when they can deliver those kind of laps in qualifying and the race, it just helps massively. And Tino, from your experiences as well, like, talking through Jan Halliday, it's like when you've got that race under your belt, what kind of weight off the shoulders does it give you? Because you've now been there, you've done it for the first time. Does that give you an extra bit of confidence if you have to go into another race?
Yeah, for sure. Like once you've been battling in with all the people you probably watched like a few years ago, like you wanting to be there, and now you actually beating them, it for sure gives you confidence to keep delivering those things. And yeah, like you said, Aston Martin probably not one of those teams which you expect to get points. So you're in pretty good situation there. You like nothing to lose every race, so helps for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll talk a little bit more about Pedreño in a minute as well, because we're going to move on to Bahrain, round 3. Now, of course, it might take a while to digest this one, but nonetheless, we'll get into it now. Right, so round 3 at Bahrain, last of the DreamHack weekend, and under the lights, as it always is. But instead of it being the season opener, it did feature, of course, as round 3 in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. An interesting qualifying session altogether, Ryan. Times were flung around left, right and centre. It got very compact. I think the biggest news, much like we saw at Japan, Jarno Opmeer out in Q2.
Yeah, it was just becoming a bit of a common theme, unfortunately, for Jarno, just getting out of, just not being able to break into Q3. It was marginal, absolutely marginal for Jarno to get through, and it was probably just the final corner. I think that was probably maybe just where the time was to be found. I think it was less than a tenth again. And that was for a few drivers. John Evans could have got through, I believe, was another one.
He was close.
And it's just ridiculous, the standards. And Bahrain is one of those tracks where everybody is quite quick at, because it's one of the favorite tracks to drive on, I think, for a lot of people. So yeah, I think for Jarno, it's maybe something he has to try and address, because I think a common theme with this game is qualifying is extremely important. You look at every league race, you're only seeing marginal positions gained. I'm saying that now. This Bahrain race was completely different. But yeah, I think qualifying has got to be something that maybe Jarno has to look at on this game, in particular this season, and go, all right, I need to just be a bit more aggressive here. Maybe take a little bit more of a risk. Maybe not do what he did at Japan in terms of risk, but just be that little bit more bold if he can. And he knows what he probably did on that lap, which cost him a Q3 appearance. But that's qualifying. It's the finest margins.
Well, I have to point out, Jarno has a pretty good guy to compare his qualifying pace.
Yeah, true.
Being Freddie's teammate, it's just sometimes it's very devastating when he's just going like 3/10 quicker than you in practice, and like, oh, he's not even good, guys. So yeah, I think Freddie can help Jarno a bit, so that could help Red Bull massively in the racing situation when they're both in top 10.
So you're saying that Freddie should do him a favour? Is that what you're saying, Tino?
Maybe.
Bold claims from Tino Naukkarinen. I mean, who impressed you altogether, Tino, from that qualifying session? Was there anything that stood out in your eyes?
Two Aston Martins. Didn't Duncan missed Q3 by like thousands or something?
It was close. Yeah.
Yes,
and then mega.
Then obviously Ruben making the Q3. So yes, Aston again, which impressed. Like other than that, most of the guys who you expect to be at the front were in the front. So
yeah, generally, yeah. It was very, very tight, it has to be said. But I think we'll obviously park quali for now. I think we need to get into the race, because this is where the meat and onions really of the matter took place. Really, I mean, again, Ismail Fassi starting on the front foot, Otis Lawrence in amongst it as well. It was side by side between those two going in towards turn 1. We had others filtering in as well. Nicolas Longuet was up there again. It was the usual suspects, Ryan.
Yeah, it was. And when you see that start as well, it was all hands on deck. Everybody was scrambling for positions, and there was one driver who was bold and brave compared to the rest, and that was Ruben Pedreño, wasn't it? He went for the softs.
Yeah.
And he did something completely different to everybody
else.
And
we were waiting for that. We were waiting for someone to take the initiative and move on to the soft.
Yeah, and it was a gamble. It might not have worked, but he got the start that he needed. He went onto the grass. It was a little bit dramatic.
It was. It got close.
he was drifting and like, oh no, this could go horribly wrong. But he kept it together and he gained a few places. And he got ahead of Thomas, and he kept him behind crucially, and he was managing to save the tyres. So the whole point of that strategy was to gain a place on the first 2 laps,
Track
and
position.
then it's tyre saving.
Yeah.
That is literally it. And he nailed it to perfection. I think he was P4 at the time. And he just drove the perfect stint on that soft tyre. Got to lap 9, pitted comfortably. I believe it was 9 or 8, one of them. And he just drove it to perfection, kept out of trouble, and he just kept Thomas behind. And I think the setup of Aston Martin definitely helped. They were a bit quick on the straight compared to that Mercedes. And when you have that know-how about just driving the car, you're in the zone. And Ruben's been around for a good number of seasons now as well. And he just knew what he needed to do, and it was a perfect performance from Ruben.
Yeah, he was unbelievable, obviously finishing really strong at the end of play, which was wonderful on his part. Obviously, there was a lot that happened in between, though. We lost Tom Manley early on as well, obviously at the very start. I think he spun off on the exit of turn 3, pretty much where we saw the Romain Grosjean incident, obviously all those years ago, that big Inferno blast, which I know took everyone's breath away, and obviously everyone was worried for Roman's safety. But yeah, I mean, Tom Manley straight into the barrier close to the barrier. I don't think he actually made contact. Whether he did, I'm not sure. But obviously self-righted himself. Elsewhere, I think the biggest incident, the biggest incident of note, Alfie Butcher being wiped out by Manley's teammate Ulas Ozyildirim. But there were other forces at play, we believe, Tino.
Yeah, it looked. I've seen yesterday. I saw Ulas POV of it in social media, and it was very weird, like lag or something. But what I heard from drivers is was like the connection in general there in the DreamHack place was not the most ideal. So surely that's something what hindered the racing. But yeah, it was Ulas very late in the braking zone, but. Yeah, then he just... I don't think Alfie did anything wrong, like moving on the braking or anything. Ulas just completely misjudged everything there. Yeah, hit Alfie's rear and then
bit
Alfie
too late.
Hit someone. Yeah, Alfie hit someone and...
John Evans, I think.
Sadly. Yeah.
Oh, no, John Evans was afterwards. I think he made contact with Ulas, sorry.
But the point is, like, Alfie actually retired from the race. His car got destroyed. So it is very unfortunate in these situations. But yeah, and then... what happened afterward is not also very nice, but that's just racing.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of many incidents. Obviously, I think Freddie was caught up in a lot of it as well. There was some contact, and again a rare moment on Freddie's part as well, Ryan, because he tapped, I believe, the back of Alfie Butcher going into turn 4.
Yeah, it was like a sad foreshadowing for Alfie, wasn't it? He got hit by one Red Bull, and then he got hit by the sister team as well. It was like, Alfie did really well to save it the first time. I think that was kind of what maybe would have happened if Ulas didn't have that spike. When it did, I think the contact would have been less significant, and Alfie could have maybe saved the car a little bit, because I think it was just that spike made the impact's much more significant, So it's very unfortunate. I think the contact was happening regardless, but it might have just been a little bit better for Alfie. And yeah, Freddie was just being aggressive at that point. He was on a better stint off the tyres. Alfie got ahead of him after, Freddie was going for the move on Thomas. He couldn't get past. And then Alfie was just like, thank you very much. You're on no battery. I'm on 100%. And he took his chance. And Alfie was actually potentially on for the win at that point now, if you're looking back at it, because without that DNF, Alfie was actually the lead medium runner, I believe, at the time. So you can see why McLaren would be absolutely livid at that result, because they could have had a potential race win, and that could have put them massively up in the constructors.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been huge for them, because obviously, it could have been a string of podiums at the very least. I think for McLaren especially, they'd been doing so well with both drivers. Obviously, ended in ultimately in tears for them. It also ended in tears largely for Freddie Rasmussen as well, Tino, because he had an incident with Julian Klaffenbach.
Yeah, after turn 10, the middle back straight there, like. It was weird. We didn't see it completely in the broadcast.
No, we just saw them barrel into the barrier, and that's about it.
Yeah, I don't know which happened. Like, did Freddie move slightly to the right, or did Julian move slightly to the left, or what happened there? But yeah, they both went to the walls, and Freddie finished on points.
Yeah.
All,
I think it was P9. I think he finished. I think in the end.
Without a front wing. So that's
bizarre,
impressive.
Incredible. Speaks more about his talent, I suppose, really, in that way.
Same for Julian as well. I think he will have. That will have been his first points, right?
I think it would have been. Yeah. Because he had two really difficult rounds, obviously prior to that. Still chasing his first points. He is, of course, the youngest driver on the grid in F1 sim racing as well this year. But yeah, massive shame for him. Obviously, this leads us now to talk about what was eventually the move to seal the deal, Ryan. And I want to get both your takes on this. Jarno Opmeer's dazzling, essentially 3-car overtake, I think, that was done over the course of 2 corners. Obviously, it all began with the battling between Otis, Nicholas Longay in the mix as well, Ismail Fassi. The 3 of them were fighting it out. They went 3 wide into turn 11, went uphill. Obviously, not optimal for any of them. And in came Jarno Opmeer, round the outside, for Red Bull to take the lead from P4.
Yeah, I think it all started when Otis and Ismail were fighting. It was into the downhill left in 9 and 10. And basically, Otis went for a really brave move into that sequence of corners. And he made contact, and then he was trying to give the position back. And that enabled Nicholas Longay to come alongside and make it 3 wide. He had to do that because he had Jarno behind him. And I think he knew if he didn't get in front of those, at least one of them, then he was losing out on that podium at that point. So he was forced, his hand was forced at that point because Jarno was on a charge at that point. And it showed his experience as well. When he saw that situation happening, you could see, because he uploaded, I think, a tweet, or Red Bull did, and you see him positioning his car to a point where he could do that switchback and making that move and seeing them go off the circuit. It was bound to happen anyway. I mean, 3 wide, one of them was either spinning or going off the track, I think, because of the nature of it and the way they were all being so aggressive. And that just shows you his experience in the game. And you've got 2 young drivers at the front. I think contact's inevitable because they get their elbows out and certain things happen, contact, and these things happen. And that's where experience head prevails. And you see Nico and Jarno both finished 1-2 in the end. So it just shows you it's keeping a cool head has its advantages.
It definitely does. I mean, Tino, in your experience, I mean, we've seen great moves. We've seen great moves from Jarno in the past. I referenced during commentary his massive win in the USA in the wet, which was, quite frankly, one of the best races we saw in F1 sim racing history. But I can't help but feel that this one topped it with everything that had gone on prior, and the ultimate opportunistic overtake on 3 drivers in 2 corners alone on the penultimate lap of the race, then to lead the final lap with no one there to touch him, and then taking the victory. I just thought, that hits the heights for me.
That's just go things.
Yeah, it is go things, isn't it? Right?
Also, his other moves, like the one in
absolutely
the corner after that in the Ronhar was insane in my opinion. But I think that's one of the best moves probably ever in F1 sim racing history.
Yeah. Do you think it'll be topped?
Of course, everything can always be topped.
Could you top it, Tino?
Probably not anymore, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's what I said in the start. Like the Jarno's, like he was already thinking probably at turn 10 that let's not use the ERS here. Let's just save it, and let's save it for the madness coming up. And that's exactly what happened. He probably didn't think he will get 3 positions. He probably thought maybe Nico and then fight for Ismail or something. But getting all 3 and then having it all that ERS what you saved for the rest of the lap, the last lap is, that's Jarno being Jarno there and leading the championship.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to do it, Ryan. I mean, crossing the line, victory. It puts him now in the pound seats already coming out of the first event, and I mean, it didn't look like it was likely off the back of the first 2, especially after the qualifying disappointments that he had witnessed as well. It came so far out of left field.
Yeah, I think he didn't even expect it himself. Again, being at the event, I got to speak to him beforehand. He knew, the first two events, first two rounds, sorry, they didn't go the way he wanted, but it's like he just knows. I'll put it behind me. It's fine. Another race, another opportunity, and he goes on to deliver that result. And yes, he had fortune. Yes, he had luck, but you've got to be there. You've got to be in that place at the right time to deliver it. And he does it. And I don't think that's luck in that regard. When you're a driver of his caliber and his experience, these things kind of sometimes just fall into place, especially when you have young drivers on the grid. These things are bound to happen, and that's where you use your experience to your advantage. And I don't think he's the only one. Like Nico would have probably done the same if he was in, Jarno's position. Freddie probably would have tried to do the same as well. I think all these experienced drivers who have been around would have done the same thing. I think the only thing which you would look back on, and I think Jarno's got to have a lot of credit for it as well. When Ismail went for that aggressive send back down the inside, he made contact with Jarno, and Jarno knew. Speaking to him after the race, he knew that could have happened, and he aggressively flicked the card so it could counter balance obviously the impact because he clipped the rear and he was able just to drive on. But it's all these little details which when you hear him speaking about, and not just him because other drivers do it as well. But when you're hearing this stuff, you're like, how are you even thinking about that? Surely your heart's pumping on the final lap. You just want to get around the first corner, and he's already thinking about a car behind, potentially dive bombing, and it happened. And that anticipation made sure he won the race. And unfortunately, Otis and Ismail dropped down the order due to that. But yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, get punished, obviously, for your misgivings and your endeavours. But obviously, it leaves us with a very compelling-looking standings as well, Ryan. Obviously, Otmir now on top, 40 points against his name. But bear in mind, obviously, there was a lot of stewards' decisions that were undertook. These are the standings that we believe currently stand. Otmir, 40 points at the top, was P8 in provisional until the stewards handed him basically the championship lead off the cuff, which was quite dramatic. Of course, Otis Lawrence, not too far behind either, 5 points. Approximately. Nicholas Longue, a point behind him at the moment, 34 points, has had a relatively consistent first event, I would say, Tino.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's... Maybe Jarno can... maybe after event 2 or 3, the championship leader can, drivers-wise, can be changed, but I think Red Bull is...
Too strong.
Yes, I think. I mean, having those two, basically the best drivers in the whole history of the sim racing in same team. I don't think they will letting anyone have a sniff at the top position in the standings.
Well,
but maybe the drivers can change.
4 championships between them, Tino. They're not going to slip up, are they?
I don't think so. I can bet probably my life savings on it.
Well, there you are. Put your money in, folks. What else have we got? Freddie Rasmussen obviously managed to achieve a victory in the opening round. It has to be said. Fassi also there as well. Obviously, work to do at Ferrari. It is still extremely tight at the moment, Ryan.
Yeah, it is. And it's anyone's game because... like Jarno after the first 2 rounds was nowhere to be seen, and the next you know he's leading the championship. That's just how quickly it can change in F1 sim racing, and that's why you can't bog down on one bad result, because the next 2 races you could go back to back, and I think that's the key thing. And it mentioned it in interviews, they're focused on the constructors, as that obviously on this year's game, and that's where the money is at. But I've got to say, I think Longue's definitely gone under the radar in terms of his results, in my opinion, because you see everybody talking about Otmir, Freddie, Otis, Fassi, because of the incidents and the drama and all that. But Nico's just gone about his job really well, and he's done it to a really good standard. And I think, for me, he's definitely probably one of the underdogs to win this title. If he can deliver after those 3 rounds consistently now, I think he could definitely win this title, because he's got the team around him, and he just looks at home in that Williams team. So yeah, I've been really impressed. He's probably been my standout driver in these opening 3 rounds.
Brilliant stuff. Well,
I mean, sorry to disturb.
No,
But,
no. Jump in.
I have to point out one. I'm looking the standings right now, and I have to point out one guy.
Oh,
We haven't even mentioned his name right now.
go on, Tino. Go on, Tino.
You have any guesses
Oh.
who it might be?
Ooh, but Danny
Just-
Berejney. I'm gonna take it.
No. Joris Kroijsen.
Ah,
Is that
yeah.
his-
Now, okay, yeah.
He's bloody sixth in the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, no, we do need to talk a little bit about it because
I mean,
obviously,
he got points in all 3 races.
yeah,
if I'm not wrong.
absolutely, and his qualifying, I have to say, was absolutely sensational. I think it has to be said. If we look back at the Chinese Grand Prix, first and foremost, to get things started, bear in mind this is a driver that didn't really have a great season last year, and to come out of the blocks the way he did, I mean that's huge, Tino.
Yeah, I mean that's 1 year of experience for you, and he knew exactly what to work with, what to work for, and that was qualifying pace to get you up to the grid. And he's been there now 3 times, 3 races in a row, being on points and delivering. And he actually, in fact, he has 24 points, and has 24 points, so he's their sole leader.
Incredible.
So. And he's only 16 points up top, so never know, you know.
A lot can happen
True.
in the remaining events, and obviously that brings us very smoothly on to the calendar ahead as well, folks. We can now look ahead and discuss what's to come. Obviously, the next event isn't until towards the latter stage of April, 22nd to the 23rd of April to be precise. Saudi Arabia is part of it, Spain and Britain. So we're going to be heading to Silverstone as well. So that's coming up for event 2. What do you make of those tracks, Tino?
It's an interesting bit of choice because usually like these events has basically same kind of theme. Like nowadays, one street track, one what Spain is, I can't. One very downforce track where you can't overtake, and then you have Silverstone. It's very interesting choice of 3, but Silverstone is probably one of the most iconic tracks in real life and as well in an F1 sim racing. So looking forward to all 3, but if I had to guess, the probably best one is gonna be in Silverstone. So nice that it's last of the event 2.
Well, you never know, Ryan. I mean, we could see another Otis victory at Jeddah. We might even see a Jarno Watmere pit lane victory at Silverstone as well.
Oh God, I don't think anybody wants to see that brought up, George, after the drama that it caused in the stewards' room of PSL. Jeez, if I saw that again, that'd be. I think everybody would copy him.
Of course.
On that occasion, if it was racing. But to go back to the calendar, I think Saudi Arabia is always quite an interesting one. It's obviously high speed, very flowy. I think we saw quite dramatic moves being pulled there, if I'm not wrong, in the past. So people might get desperate, and I think we could see big collisions. I think there was a PSGL one, if I'm not wrong, in remembering where there was a huge accident, or it might have been F1 sim racing.
No, it was F1 sim racing.
Yeah, and there was multiple cars which clashed.
Yeah.
Crashed. Freddie, I think, got caught up in that as well. And you just
it was when Danny came out with "Good luck, Jake" after he turned, turned around. It's absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Good luck, Jake.
There was like 5 DNFs or something. In that moment.
Yeah. That was the most dramatic race I think I've ever seen. So Jeddah, I think, will be one to watch.
Yeah.
Spain is an interesting one in the regard of it will probably be a strategy base, but undercut is not as optimal, because if somebody goes for the undercut, you're better off covering it off because of the compounded tires around Spain. So you're better off just staying out that one lap, covering off the undercut, and then you should keep that position. As for Silverstone, it is a nightmare. That's a little bit different to Spain. People will go very aggressive in the pit stop phase. I think they'll go as early as lap 6 and try and make it to the end, and they'll just tire manage. The overtaking, again, I think similar to Jeddah, will be very aggressive. I think Sector 1's probably going to be the most optimal place, and you after turn 3, I believe, just diving down the inside, because everybody likes to swoop out right to open up the corner. And I think someone's brave enough, they might chuck it down there. But I think it's 3 good, interesting tracks, a bit of variation, and I think Ismail Fassi will be one to watch at Spain, because every time I've seen him do bloody time trial around there or upload a lap, he's always maybe a tenth or half a tenth clear of people. So
Absolutely.
I think
It's
that'll
his
be
home
one
track.
to watch
It's
in
his
there.
home track.
Exactly, and that too. All the Spanish drivers are rapid around Spain, so yeah, I expect big things from Ismail around there.
Yeah, well, the big question is, Tino, can Jarno Watmir, is the cork being removed from the bottle now in terms of this race win that he has just received at Bahrain? Do you think this is going to lead to more, or do you think this is going to be a mixed bag for the championship heading into the next event?
Yeah, probably a little bit mixed. I know he loves Jeddah, so he probably will be strong there. And then actually, I think he said somewhere like back in the days that he also loves Spain. It probably was the old layout, but yeah, maybe first two races he can deliver something and keep the lead. But he always has said that he's not strong around Silverstone. But I've always seen him win there, so that's pretty.
Yeah.
Weird.
Even in unorthodox ways, like pit lanes.
Yes, but like even like 23 in F1 sim racing, he won with that soft strategy.
That's true. Yeah.
Like it's one of his worst tracks. He always says in streams or videos what he does, and it just tends to get results. So
yeah, he's bluffing. That's what we do know. He's obviously bluffing.
Yeah, I guess yes. But also I know for a fact Silverstone is one of Freddie's favorite tracks. So
yeah. It's Red Bull. It's Red Bull, regardless, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it seems to be a team here, but well, what can I say? Like it's
a Red Bull super fan over here. That's what it is.
Red Bull / Man United super fan. I'm getting a theme. Yeah, clearly.
If I had any bold picks, I would say Longay would be actually very strong in those rounds as well.
Let's talk about. Let's end the show on predictions. How about that? Because I think that's a nice way to sort of bring an end to this gargantuan first show. We've gone well over an hour, by the way, folks. We're now an hour, nearing up an hour and 20. But
time flies.
Yeah, it does fly. But we're having fun, aren't we? So let's talk about predictions. First of all, I'm going to kick things off for you, Tino, because you kind of said something, but I'm not sure whether you're going to go the Longay route or you might throw me a curveball and suggest something totally different. But who's going to be your star for Event 2?
Ronhar. He's going to come back. He's going to come back.
That is a mighty call, Tino Naukkarinen. Where on earth did that come from? Your reasoning, please. I'm intrigued.
I mean, look at Merck. They're last in the points right now. Ronhar didn't get his... I mean, for his standards, that's a diabolical event.
Yeah,
like
12
points.
Would you say he was the biggest, I'm trying to use a sensitive word here, but would you say he was the biggest shock in terms of poor results through the first event?
Yeah, like these past 3 years, you always seem to see Ronhar in top 5 fighting for the wins, but not in event 1 this year. So I'm pretty sure he's on it right now, practicing these tracks, and he's gonna come back strong.
I don't like using the word flop, but he's your flop for the first event.
I mean, I don't think he's denying it either. So
no,
but I think it's easier now when you have 3 races done. Now you know what went wrong, and now you just keep grinding on the next tracks and just have to put the results in. And I feel like he has the talent and the pace and everything to turn it around and become, fighting again for the championship like he's done past 3 years. So that's my take.
Yeah, well, brilliant take that is. Thank you very much, Tino. Ryan, over to you. Where are you going with yours?
I'm going to go with, I think McLaren are going to have a big event too. I think Alfie and Jake are going to pull it out of the bag. I think they're going to surprise everybody. I got faith in Alfie to deliver. I think he'll get at least one win in these 3 rounds. I've got just the way he's driven in the first 3 to not have a race win yet. I think he was on for it. And after that Bahrain race where he got taken out, I think the motivation has just gone up a level for them. And with Wilson as, the 3rd driver, he'll be helping them with his experience as well, being on the grid. But yeah, I think him and Jake, I think at least one of them should win at least one round. And I think Alfie should do that. And I think they'll shoot up the order. And McLaren are still I think they're my dark horses this season to at least finish in the top 3 of the championship at a minimum. If they don't, then serious words will be had. But
by you,
by me, yeah, not by the team, by me. Um,
How
'cause
dare
I've
you make
put-
me look stupid?
Exactly. So I'm putting a lot of pressure on Alfie and Jake here, but they've got to deliver for me. Otherwise, serious words will be had with those two guys.
Brilliant. Well, I'm a bit torn, I'll be honest, because obviously I've been liking what I've seen from Nicholas Longe so far at Williams. I think he's been spectacular. I think there's definitely at least a win there this season somewhere, maybe more than one, to be honest with you. And I'd be more, sort of vying towards the multiple race wins this season. You can't help but look at Alpine as a huge team with great prospects, especially with the form that Otis is in. He's got one win already this season already for Alpine. When you've got a teammate like Danny Berejnet, obviously that opens up numerous doors given his experience, and I would argue that he's still racing and qualifying as well as he's ever done, really, obviously bar the few instances that he's been involved in. So I think those are the two danger teams. Just one final word on Barry Burremand, I think at Ferrari as well. Obviously, big shame not to see him in the first event. He put out an emotional statement. Quite understandably, he's, upset by what's gone on. Obviously, it's out of his hands, out of everybody's hands at this stage. Ferrari obviously going with John Evans for the first event, but we can't deny that Barry is a title contender, on his best day as well. Ryan and obviously Tino, I'd imagine you'd feel the same way. There's a possibility that Barry could come back. Ishmael as well on the form that he is in, obviously showing some really positive results. Do you think if Barry returns and they've got their two strongest drivers that Ferrari could come back?
Yeah, 100%. I think Barry is unbelievable in this game. I think I remember seeing some laps of him, and he's just like unbelievable. He is up there with Freddie, Jarno, Otis, in terms of just raw one lap pace on and just general racecraft as well. Like he can definitely fight for this title. I think it's so unfortunate what happened. Obviously, it's completely out of his control, like you say. And I do hope that he is there for the next round, because I think he'll be even more aggressive in terms of just getting points on the board for Ferrari. I think you'll see him fighting at the front 100%. And another thing you got to mention as well is credit to John in terms of his performance and being able to just
at short notice as well.
Yeah, exactly. And he wasn't prepared. I don't think he was as prepared as he could have been due to that situation, because I think they knew that it would have been a Barry and Ismail lineup for that event in
100%.
particular. So
yeah,
it's credit to John as well. But Barry will come back extra hungry, and I think he'll be just itching to get into that seat and get some points back for Ferrari, which he'll feel he's been robbed of.
Yeah, I mean, Tino, it's very much like the Red Bull setup, for example, at Ferrari, where they've got the two main drivers. Obviously, Sebi Jobe takes the back seat generally as the number 3 at Red Bull. That's essentially John Evans' role as well at Ferrari, is it not? They tend to favour the likes of Barry and Ishmael. So obviously, not having Barry there is a major loss for them.
It is, but I wouldn't say it's. I mean, of course, it's a big loss if he can't come back for event 2 or event 3. But I'm taking a different perspective. Now John has done one event. He's got used to the equipment, all the environment. Could he like start getting consistent points? Never know, Like I think now he's probably on the practice, and in case he can't, if he has to drive, but he gets the opportunity to drive, he will definitely improve.
100%.
From event 1. Yeah.
Well, he'll be practicing now, won't he? I'd imagine, because they don't know whether another occurrence like this will come. So John has to prepare, right?
Yeah, but like I said, it can only become better. Like I know from it's very driver like based how quickly you get used to the equipment and all the environment, and it's always different feeling than home. Even if you have the same rig, it's always a bit different. It's not exactly the same what you have home. So now it can be better for John. He has the talent for sure. So if Ferrari is, I feel like Ferrari won't catch Red Bull, but the second place is up there for taking for sure. If they just keep getting consistent points and podiums and even wins with Ismail probably.
Yeah, that is the aim of the game. Well, it's our MO to bring you all that news as well when it comes around, folks. We do appreciate your time. We have given you a lot. It has to be said. We're verging on an hour and a half already of content. This is the first ever episode of the Sim1 Podcast. We do appreciate your time. Please make sure, if you haven't done so already, to check us out on social media. We are on Twitter and on Instagram as well as TikTok at Sim1_pod. Also, great to have our esteemed guests here. Of course, my fellow hosts here of the Sim1 Podcast. Of course, my name being George Morgan, Ryan Jacobs, Tino Naukkarinen. Ryan, where can they find you on social media, sir?
It's on Twitter. I'm mainly on Twitter, and it's a complicated one, but just search up Ryan99, and I'm sure I'll come up there. So I'll be honest. That's the place to find me.
We've used your Instagram one. But it doesn't matter. Yeah. That's under your name right now. Tino, where can they find you?
Yeah, just my name in both Twitter and X and Instagram.
Brilliant. There you have it. His tag is just below his name on screen as well, everybody. If you want to try and find me, of course you can at George Morgan TV on Twitter, Instagram, and of course TikTok as well. But it has been an absolute privilege. Big thank you to Ryan. Big thank you to Tino. First episode of the Sim1 Podcast. Do join us next time in a week's time for the next one as well. Remember, we do, of course, show our podcasts on YouTube and, of course, Spotify. Be sure to check them out. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.